We acknowledge that Tri-Cities Community Television operates on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them along with the waters and all that is above and below.
On Saturday, April 11th, the community was invited to come out to Como Lake United Church in Coquitlam to celebrate Crossroads, a walk down memory lane. Many in attendance were past volunteers, staff, donors, and other partners of Crossroads Hospice, who came out to reflect upon and celebrate the collaborative effort that made compassionate hospice care and bereavement support possible in the Tri-Cities for the past 35 years. Of course, Tri-Cities Community TV was there and brings you this coverage.
We will get started then. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Celebrate Crossroads. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us on this Saturday afternoon. I know that there are people that have traveled from outside the Lower Mainland specifically to be here with us today, and we really appreciate that. I think it says a lot about the character set of all of you, and all of you loyal volunteers for Crossroads for so many decades in so many ways, shapes, and forms, and it's just quite incredible. So to be able to come together today, I think it's just a great blessing for all of us. Before we get started, please join me in our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Celebrate Crossroads is taking place on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them along with the waters and all that is above and below. So my name is Tracy Price. It's my pleasure to be able to MC for everybody today. So my association with Crossroads goes back to my darling mother, Betsy Boder, who some of you who have been around a long time may remember the name of. So she was one of the early visiting volunteers, and she volunteered at the hospice thrift store forever. And we retired her last May. She'll be 90 in July. And she's sorry she can't be here today. But I'm from the business world. I've got that business brain and number crunching. And Mom came to me, I guess back in the late 1990s and just said, Crossroads Hospice is thinking of building a hospice. But we really need some help with that. And you got the business brain. Do you think maybe you'll come on, could you maybe consider coming on board to help facilitate this? And I can't say no to my mother. Anybody that she's tried to sell a raffle ticket to for church and Christmas, you will know that. You do not say no. So that's how I came to be involved with Crossroads Hospice. And there I was introduced to some wonderful, amazing people that have history with Crossroads, people that you'll hear from today that are going to come speak. My partner in crime, as I would call it, Linda Kazina. So Linda and I partnered up to chair the capital campaign to raise the funds to build the Crossroads Hospice and Inlet Center. Neither one of us knew what we were doing. We have no idea. I thought, okay, well, how hard could it be? Well, it can be very hard. And remember, back then in the late 1990s, people didn't really know what a hospice was. Because Crossroads, was there working in the background, and Mom was a visiting volunteer, as were a lot of others of you. But to actually have a bricks and mortar and to have something to call your own and be able to use it as an example of this is what Crossroads has done and established in the community, and this is what we do, and this is how we help serve people. I know I'm preaching to the converted here. But that was one of the biggest challenges when we were going around to the community looking to raise the funds to build hospice. Unless you've had the experience of dealing with a loved one who's passing away, and have the ability to tap into the strength that Crossroads Hospice provides, couldn't really relate. But it was really interesting as the stories started to come out, and we all know somebody who's passed away. It doesn't matter whether it's now or 30 years ago. But it's just what support systems were available for them at the time. So it's been a true honor to help introduce the community to what Crossroads Hospice is all about and what it means, and to help spread the word, as all of you have done as well. So thank you for that. I'd like to express my gratitude to the Hot Club of Poco for the wonderful music that we've enjoyed this afternoon. So this group is not only composed of talented individuals, but they also perform on Friday evenings at the Crossroads Coffee House in Port Coquitlam. So the Hot Club of Poco here is Bill, Kate, Susan, and Dawn. Crossroads Coffee House, if you've never been, I just confirmed, it's been going for 27 years now, out in Poco at the Gathering Place on Fridays. It's fantastic to a way to enjoy the power of music while supporting Crossroads Hospice. So Mark and Linda Kazina, Mark was sitting right there. So Mark and Linda Kazina also bring their music to the hospice, allowing patients and families to benefit from one of Crossroads' most treasured and long-standing programs. So the music program Linda started from the Coffee House Performers is still available and still going strong in the hospice for patients and families. Sue Malcolm managed the music program for several years. So thank you very much to them. It's just yet another example of the power that like-minded individuals can bring to the Crossroads Hospice story. So today we gather to reflect and celebrate the remarkable journey of Crossroads Hospice Society, since that journey began way back in 1988, and use that as a springboard, I guess, to inspire our future work. Many of you in this room have played a key role through contributing your time, your ideas, and a belief that our community needs a place that provides compassionate hospice care and grief support for members of our community who've experienced the loss of a loved one. This important foundation will also continue to guide the work of Crossroads into the future and will reinforce our collective vision to ensure dignity, compassion, and heart are at the core of the work we provide to the community. After all, that's where it all began. So we're going to hear from a few folks who were part of the early days at Crossroads and from a family that experienced personally the compassion, dignity, and care that makes Crossroads so special. This experience also reminds us of the impact and the importance of having a place where families can just focus on the time with their loved ones as they face their final days of life. Crossroads Hospice is more than just a 10-bed facility where families spend time with their loved ones before passing. It's a place where patients and their families can actively participate in creating memories and honoring the time that they have shared together. This is especially powerful when the art cart makes its way down the hallway, a beautiful program initiated years ago by Linda Thiessen, the founder of BC Arts in Healthcare, established so that today continues to, through the hands and talents of volunteers like Christina Graf, to allow expression of artwork and loving memory for those patients and their families that are in the hospice. So let's get started. So to kick us off, let's give a warm welcome to Sylvie Jensen, the Executive Director of Crossroads Hospice Society.
Thank you, Tracy. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here as we celebrate the journey of Crossroads Hospice Society. I joined the team at Crossroads in 2016 as the volunteer coordinator, and I knew right away that it was a special place. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm very grateful for my 10 years with Crossroads. As I prepared for today, I looked through photos and videos dating all the way back to the early 1990s. And many of you here today were part of those early years. You helped build Crossroads, you raised awareness in community, and you carried a dream forward when it was just that, a dream. Some of you hold stories from that time, and we want to hear them, because those stories are our history, our foundation. They are how we got here, and we don't want to lose that. Over the years, many things have changed. Management comes and goes, board members, staff, and volunteers come and go. But what has remained constant is the spirit of Crossroads. A spirit of a home away from home, a spirit grounded in caring, compassion, and dignity. The essence of what we do has remained the same. I'd like to take you back to 1999. This was before the dream of a freestanding hospice became a reality. And as many of you know, bringing that dream to reality in 2003 was a tremendous accomplishment on so many levels. In the video you're just about to watch, you'll hear from those early voices, people who were doing the work at Eagle Ridge Hospital while also dreaming of something more. Let's take a look.
Crossroads Hospice Society is a non-profit, volunteer group that works with dying persons and their families, both in the patient's homes and on the palliative ward at Eagle Ridge Hospital. These volunteers give a great deal of their time, attention, and love to people facing life's darkest moments.
Our volunteers offer emotional support to persons and their families who are faced with a life-threatening or terminal illness. They also support them through the grief process. If we could define the role of the volunteer in one word, the word would be listen, and as a result, we attract very dedicated, very committed volunteers.
Well, I think when I was first approached, it was an unfortunate time in my life because I had just lost my mother to cancer, and shortly after that I had a sister who died also from cancer. And I think it was driven home to me that the Hospice Society was a place where you could go and get comfort and some sympathy and empathy when this kind of thing happens in your life. So I think the time was opportune, and it made me realize that we all need this kind of thing in our community, and that we should all support it if indeed we were asked to do it.
You know, if you only do the things in life that you have to do, you've really not done anything. But there's something about a group of people who volunteer to come and help others in what I think has to be the most difficult situation.
Most of the volunteers that we attract have had a loss or losses in their life. We have 70 visiting volunteers who have completed a very intensive 30-hour training program. After that program is ended, we ask them to please take that book of information and set it aside, look within their own hearts, and take their own gifts with them to visit that person.
Crossroads volunteers share themselves in a variety of ways, visiting with patients both at home and on the ward, serving afternoon tea with a smile, providing therapeutic touch for patients, support workers, and community workers, documenting patients' life stories. Sharing with the patients helps the volunteers to learn more about themselves as well.
Well, it's been very interesting because in visiting a person who's dying, you don't even have to have very many similarities in your life, but you can have sort of a real experience of closeness and really genuinely accepting that person for who they are. Which you probably wouldn't do in everyday life because you're so different. You probably wouldn't be friends with them. But with death, there's a certain acceptance and love that just comes to play. And my hospice client who recently died, we were as different as could be, but we really grew to love one another. And it was quite a real worthwhile experience.
He put him on antibiotic yesterday, 3 times a day, because of his dizzy spell.
We are part of the team on the palliative ward. There are many players on the team, including doctors and nurses and volunteers. The other end is the medical for the doctors and the nurses, but the volunteers offer the emotional support. The patient may require one or all players on the team.
Patients are really quite mystified with the whole concept of doctors and nurses and white coats and stethoscopes, and it's really challenging for them to relate. And if they can sit down with a well-trained volunteer, and often the volunteers that we're dealing with have walked the walk. In other words, they have had a loved one who has gone through a similar situation, or maybe they themselves have gone through, and they can talk on a very personal and on a one-to-one basis in a very meaningful way. So there's tremendous value in them being there as someone part of the team, but not associated, as I said, with that white coat and the stethoscope and all the medical jargon that goes on around. And there's a real comfort level that comes from that.
We're here not only for the patients, but we're also here to support the staff. When they recognize that one of the patients needs some emotional support, myself, Kevin, or one of our volunteers can be here to do something as simple as holding their hand.
Our priority, unfortunately, sometimes has to be just their medical and their physical needs. And so that's where Crossroads helps us in ways that we can't thank them enough for, because they have that time to sit and be there for the patients when we wish we could be and we can't. And it helps us to feel like their needs are being met. If we can't do it, we feel terrible, like not everything they need is being addressed. And so when we can have somebody step in and help us with that, it really helps. They're great, great team members.
Crossroads Hospice also offers grief support to the patients' families, providing them with an opportunity to release pent-up feelings, encouraging them to do what they need to do.
If I cry, because I've lost say my mother or my father. My wife could come over and pat me on the back and try to give me support, but what happens is it may stop me from doing what I need to do. I need to cry. I need to know that it's okay to cry. And in a group like this, people are encouraged to do what they need to do, whether it's to get really, really mad at God, mad at the person that's died, mad at their family for not supporting them, mad at the hospital, the nurses. All those things are encouraged, because then what happens is they take them from here and they take them and they dump them out. Then they don't carry them around with them anymore.
Crossroads, like Ellie is from Crossroads, yes, very good. They all visit me every week, 3 times. That's good. He talk and pray for me and talk, strengthen me. That's good.
And this one here is called a Carol Original, and every piece of art she did, she signed like that, a Carol Original. So even in grade 3 and 4.
Sometimes, a Crossroads volunteer will work directly with the patient to organize photos, stories, and other visual memories into an album that can be passed on to their children and other loved ones.
Anyone who's dying wants to leave a story. They want to be remembered. And if there's nothing tangible that they're leaving other than their wedding rings or a few photo albums around the house, the story that I've written of their feelings, how they perceive their life and the challenges that they've faced, is what I hope I've created in these books. They lose so much of control in their life when they get cancer, and this is the one last thing that they have control of, and it's a tangible thing that's left for their families, and I want it done right, and I don't want it to be influenced by any other member in the family. It has to be their story, and I make sure that it is written from their point of view.
Crossroads volunteers give freely of their own time and energy. They also have to focus a lot of energy on generating financial support from the community.
Since we get no government funding, we are required to do our own fundraising. We do Christmas wrapping, we sell lottery calendars, and we have a major event every year, the Treasures of Christmas. This black tie optional event is well supported and well attended by the community. We're also very fortunate to have Tony Parsons, BCTV anchorman, as our MC and also as our honorary chairperson.
I have undertaken to help them out as much as I can. If I can spread the word about the Hospice Society, then I consider my job well and truly done.
It's $300 now the 50. It's $300 now the half, and the half and 50 where? It's $300, 3 1/2. Quarter where? 3 1/4. Now a half. It's 3 1/4 now the half. 3 1/2 is 75.
Well, I think sometime or another in our lives, we're all going to be touched by the losses in a family way or friends or whatever. And I think we have to realize that there is a place you can go to get some support in your grief, and I think it's a small sacrifice to put a little money into the mix by contributing to the Hospice Society in some way or another.
That financial support will certainly help the day-to-day operations of the Society, and it will also help the Crossroads team to work towards a dream that they have all shared for a long time.
Our long-term goal has always been to build a freestanding hospice. When we have a patient on the palliative ward that can't go home or doesn't have anybody at home to care for him, this would provide him with a home-like setting with 24-hour-a-day professional care.
It's a place where in the middle of the night, if I want to get up and have a cup of tea, I know I can go and have a cup of tea. I consider it a real table. I can stretch out and watch TV. But more importantly than that, it's a place where my family can come and stay with me. Family can come and hold my hand or just to be present with me. It's a place where I think that if my family finds it too difficult, I know that there's going to be other people, like the volunteers, that will come and sit there, even if I just need them to be present. It's a place where I can do what I need to do in my last days, whether it's cry, whether it's laugh, whether it's sit and stare outside at a beautiful garden that's in back. But I need to be a place where I can feel safe and comfortable to do what I need to do.
Public interest in the concept of a freestanding hospice is growing. Hopefully, this increased awareness will help generate the funds necessary for Crossroads to achieve their goal in the Tri-Cities area. In the meantime, they'll continue to give from their hearts, keeping a sharp focus on the immediate needs of dying patients and their families.
As we continue to grow and become more visible in the community, we need to remember our role, which is to offer emotional support to persons and their families that are faced with a life-threatening illness and to support them in the grieving process. Also, we're not only giving to the people that we visit, but we are receiving greatly ourselves. And I consider the role of the volunteer as the highest capacity of volunteerism.
It's a certain type of person who volunteers, and I think that those are the type of people that we acquire in the Crossroads Hospice, are people who are really caring and compassionate and have a need to give something back to community.
It's really difficult to know what to say to people. It's when they're faced with a situation like this, and nothing that you say ever seems adequate. But it's the fact that they're willing to take a chance and come and give what they can. And I don't think anyone would ever regret having done that. I think that when you're on the receiving end, you can't ever place a value on it. It's a wonderful thing.
What I get out of it is fulfillment. It's the other part of me that I don't have on my job. And I can be creative as I want. I can get as intimate as I want with the people that I'm visiting. And it just fulfills me. And I've done a lot of volunteering over the years, but this is the top job I've ever had.
I would say if you want to do something that will help you sort of work up to the point where you can deal with death, in your own death, get involved with people who are already dealing with it, and they can teach a lot. And you will build up the kind of strength that you need to fight this final battle.
Who could have imagined that just 4 years later, the dream of a freestanding hospice would become a reality? It's just incredible. It truly speaks to the dedication, passion, and determination of everyone involved, as well as the support of the community. So thank you to all of you who gave your time and talents to make this dream come true. Thank you. Back to your face.
Wow. Okay, that was a very powerful walk back in time. So many familiar faces. We could, if we had all afternoon, we could play a game where people could try to pick out who they saw and how much nobody has changed in 27 years. There's a lot of you here. So many familiar faces. It's great that you're able to be here today. But most importantly, what a powerful reminder of how this journey began. And although the times look different, we see that some things remain timeless. The need for care and compassion and for love never goes out of style, even if the clothes that we were wearing at Treasures to Christmas. And that's the care and the compassion that Crossroads is known for. So thank you for sharing this incredible moment in time. And isn't it great that somebody made that? And actually, the gentleman down noon who made it, that's a friend of my sister's. So I'm gonna be seeing her in a bit, and I'm gonna remind her and see if he remembers doing that. So. Sorry. Okay. Now, moving right along, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. So this gentleman played a key role in advancing towards a hospice facility in the Tri-Cities. He served on the Crossroads Board of Directors. I worked very closely with him. Keep in mind, I said I had the business brain. It's all these people that you're seeing in the video, and people like the gentleman that's going to come up, that they taught me all the other stuff, right? That just opened up that whole world to me, and you can see I'm still attached to that. So, Ted once referred to the building of the hospice using the old quote from the Field of Dreams: "If you build it, they will come." So I would like to welcome Ted Quince to the podium to say a few words. Ted was Coquitlam-based, had a counseling practice. He's written a couple of books, including Peace Begins with Me, which I have read several times over, and highly recommend it. But Ted, if you would like to come up and join us at the podium, please.
Boy, we have beautiful hearts. I miss this community. You know, when I think back to that time, I joined Crossroads probably in the late 1990s. And my wife, Darlene Fletcher, was one of the visiting volunteers. And she said to me, "Ted, I think they need your help on the board of directors." And I didn't know anything about hospice, but I've spent a lot of time on boards. It's a place where minutes are kept and hours are lost. And there was this dream that Crossroads had been holding on to for years of a freestanding hospice. And I just showed up at that moment. And it wasn't long after I was chair of the board that Craig Lockheed approached us and said, "I'm going to be building a 3-story building in Port Moody. And I think we could add a 4th floor to that building. And would you like to have your freestanding hospice there?" Well, talk about a dream come true. I mean, when I think back to it, it was magical how that happened, how that just showed up. And so not only did we have a developer that was willing to build this dream of ours, but the community showed up. And what I most remember is that there are 10 beds in the facility, and that there were 10 teams that were assembled to design each of the rooms. And every room was spectacular. It was like a 5-star hotel. And probably the strongest memory that I have is that when they had the opening for the hospice and invited the community to come see what they created. That lineup down the street was blocks and blocks and blocks. People wanted to come and see this dream of a freestanding hospice. And I remember the comments over and over again, "How did you guys afford to create those beautiful rooms? Like, that must have cost you a lot of money." And it wasn't money, it was time and talent and creativity as these teams came together to just, they sewed the quilts, they sewed the curtains, they created the decorations, every room was spectacular. But I just remember the beautiful spirit. I mean, it was the coming together of both hearts and souls that I believe made that building happen. And you could feel it. It was so strong. The community embraced it. I feel like Crossroads is one of the examples where the community owned it. It wasn't just a board of directors or volunteers or staff. The Tri-Cities embraced that dream. And then I think about some of the other things that got created, the Crossroads thrift store, and how that came about. And I remember being in that empty building and assembling shelves and hangers and coat racks, and I think we painted a huge sunflower on one of the walls. I'm trying to remember what that was all about. And then a couple of years after that was the labyrinth. And again, another beautiful creation. And it was a part of the park that was actually quite derelict, and I seem to recall the story is that the city workers didn't like working in that part of the park because it was often a place that there was lots of garbage and lots of needles from drug addicts, and it was not a very welcoming part of Port Moody. And somehow that labyrinth happened, and it changed that part of Port Moody. But one of the stories that I most remember about that labyrinth is that we needed to get permission from Port Moody City Council to build the Crossroads Labyrinth there. And so my wife, Darlene Fletcher, and I, we went and we purchased a huge tarp from one of the home building supply stores and a couple of rolls of duct tape. And we put this tarp in the middle of a parking lot. I think it was at Coquitlam Center, if I remember correctly, somewhere. And we mapped out a labyrinth, like the Chartres Labyrinth from Chartres Cathedral in France. And then we had folded up that labyrinth that was on the tarp, and we went to Port Moody City Council one evening while they were having a city council. And we invited them outside and asked them to walk the labyrinth that we had created on the tarp. So they suspended the city council meeting, and the mayor and aldermen all came outside and walked the labyrinth. And then they went back in and they passed the approval for Crossroads Labyrinth there. And I just think about how this beautiful dream of Crossroads just grew and grew and grew and continues to grow. And when I think about the state of the world today, I would suggest that the work of Crossroads is more important than ever. That in some ways the sanctity of human life and the specialness of that time of transition when somebody's releasing their spirit from that physical body, it's a very sacred time. And sometimes I think we've forgotten how important and how sacred that time is. And I think Crossroads holds that memory, holds that understanding, the sacredness of that time. And I would suggest more than ever humanity needs that. And so I want to thank you all for holding that space, because you're doing more than simply helping the transition of those that are within Crossroads. I think you're helping to hold the soul of our community. We're doing important work. Thank you.
Well, another powerful reminder of where we've been, where we're going, and why we're all here. So thank you very much, Ted. Next, we have a gentleman who is one of many who helped turn the dream of the hospice space into the reality it is today. His name's already been mentioned. This individual was part of those early conversations and played a pivotal role in building a hospice, because he's the guy that came up with the idea. Let's stick another floor on top of this 3-story building. So I'd like to please welcome Craig Lockhead, who is the president of CL Housing Strategies, and he's got a couple of words for us today.
Thanks for having me. I made some notes. I'm probably going to ignore them, so I'll get these out. This project was the most important project for me and for my family, for Marion, for her father, Grady, my business partner at the time. We built a lot of housing over the last 45 years, a lot of social housing, but we were connected to this community, and we were connected to the project through our involvement with Crossroads Hospice. Met them all at the Western Plateau galas, and gave our money and got excited and said, oh, what's a hospice? Like everybody's been saying. So it's full circle, it's connected, because we had just done some work with GDHC, which is now called Metro. Built out the old City Hall site in Coquitlam. It was our first project with them. And we're aware of an RFP that was coming forward from the City of Port Moody. And we decided we'd take a run at that. And a bit of a fib on Ted's part that I had a 3-story building planned. We knew early on, as greedy developers, that we needed some sex and sizzle to the project. And Crossroads was just what we were looking for. So it sort of came late in the piece. The funny thing was that Joe McInnes, who was my family doctor, who gave me a physical for football in 1968, was the head of palliative care. That's another connecting moment for me. Pete toured my team, the palliative ward, to give us an idea of what we would be looking at, but we all looked at each other and said, this is a hospital. And Crossroads is working in the hospital. How close are they? And we had looked at some plans, but basically, as people have said, that was the exciting part of the journey. We didn't know what we were doing. I built a lot of stuff, but I had never built a quasi-medical facility, hospital type setting. So, and I know the hospice goes way beyond that, and that's its special sauce. It's a wonderful place. But that was the thing. We all had to learn together, and we all had to tour sites, and we all had to figure out what we wanted to do, and it was really fun. And we went to the Cottage Hospice, I think, and St. John's. And couldn't see two more different facilities. One freestanding, beautiful little house in a park, and another one in the downtown east side, in the basement of the building. So we said, oh, okay, hospices can be a lot of different things. What's the best way for us to approach it? So as a team, we rolled up our sleeves. And, oh, by the way, we won the RFP. Yeah, forgot to say that. and at the RFP, Rick Maruzak was the mayor at the time. Joe Tresney got involved later. Jim McIntyre was the head of planning. It was very important. So we won the RFP, continued this research, toured the facility with my old doctor, had some plans. BC Housing was involved heavily because we needed funding, and we were doing a lot of BC Housing and CMHC work at the time, so they had funded the old City Hall site, and once we won the RFP, they were good to go again. So some of the community didn't quite understand that was such a lock. Linda Kazina and I sweated it out a lot, thinking, well, is it really going to happen? Well, we had a pretty good idea that it would, and it did. So there was another wrinkle to that, though. We had a change of government. And I read some articles in the room over there, brought it all back. We had the project completely approved, and the NDP got wiped out, and the BC Liberals came in, and we were wondering, they froze every social housing project in British Columbia at the time. We were prominent, we had a lot going on, and we managed to get ours through, and I think it had something to do with our political affiliation at the time. We were good BC Liberals. My wife was a prominent, anyway, family affair. So, yeah, we had to sort of, I guess, hold our breath there for a while and hope everything was going to go through. We at Metro, or GVHC at the time, Perry Stanisha. And by the way, I did reach out to Perry in the 11th hour. He did answer. He's unfortunately busy today, but he sends his wishes, so he wishes he could be here. So Perry Stanisha, Gary Charles, they ran GVHC at the time. Shane Ramsey, the head of BC Housing. Craig Crawford. Those people were all the special people that gave us this funding. But they would only pay for bricks and mortar. And the building had a lot of special equipment, and it had a lot of furnishings, and that's why the capital campaign was launched. And Tracy and her big efforts, Ted, Linda again. So off they went and raised a whole bunch of money that was really drastically needed. This was a small part of a very big project, which was completely funded by BC Housing as far as bricks and mortar goes, including Wishes, which was the women's society that was in the building next door. Quitlam Lions came in on the seniors' housing, and GDHC themselves were managing family townhomes. So big, exciting project. All worked out well. Yeah, so those are some little inside issues that you might not have known about. How did this thing really come together? But as I said, my favorite project of all, my whole career, God's truth. Thank you.
Always nice to get the inside scoop on how things happen, right? Thanks very much, Craig. Next, it's my sincere pleasure to welcome an individual who played a key role in supporting our volunteers over the years, ensuring the visiting volunteer program effectively supported patients and families in the community, at Eagle Ridge Hospital, in the community itself, and then later on in the actual hospice. We'll see if you can recognize this person, because there have been some pictures that have been shown. He hasn't changed at all. Please join me in welcoming Pete O'Reilly, our former volunteer.
I don't leave home. I always have something with me when I leave.
You only have 5 minutes.
Oh, I only have 5 minutes? Okay. Can everybody hear me? Yes. I'm not made to go behind a microphone. That's okay. And I always like to bring something with me when I come. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's great to see everybody. I recognize lots of faces. A lot of them didn't recognize me. I don't know if you saw that little video there. I've changed a little bit since the last time you saw me. Anyways, just to tell you a little bit about my history, how I got involved in Crossroads Hospice. In 1980, my sister approached me to take this training program about dying, and it was on a Wednesday night. I was a single parent raising 2 young boys. It was my only night off, and you know what I was thinking of doing. It wasn't going to learn about dying, and so how could I say no to my sister? So I said I would go. Now, she had lost a child to crib death. I don't know how she was trying to find something to support her. I sure didn't have the tools then that I have now. I didn't know what to do. She was struggling. She couldn't find, so she took this program to try to help her dealing with the loss of her child. Well, this program, I don't know how she went through it, but I went through the training program with no intention of doing this dying stuff. Trust me, I was no intention of doing that. And I'd heard a saying, you know, there's a reason for everything. When the program was over, they asked who would like an application to volunteer. I don't know what happened, but my hand went up. And I will tell you, that application sat on my bed table for a number of months. And finally one day I said, you know what, we'll put it in. I don't know if I'm going to pursue this or not. So I filled it out. I don't like doing applications. I'm the kind of guy that does an application. If you read one that says, if the answer is no, go with the 5 down, then I put no and I go to the 1 5 down. Anyways, I filled it out and I became a visiting volunteer with the society. Because I was the only man, guess who they gave me to visit? Men, and guess what? Men don't talk. They finally gave me a woman, and after I had that woman to visit, I went to them and I said, don't give me another man. I just want women because they share, they talk, right? So anyways, I got involved, and then I sold my business in 1990, and in November of 1991, I had taken a year off, and I was looking for work that paid money, right? I was looking for something that paid money, and I was approached to see if I would take over on a temporary basis the job of a volunteer coordinator. And I looked at it. They wanted me to guarantee them 1 year because they needed a little bit of time, you know, to find this right person. And so I talked it over with my wife. And we knew we had to subsidize our income. We had 4 teenagers at home. We had to subsidize my income, but we decided we would do it for that year, right? Well, lo and behold, 17 years later, I left my position at the Crossroads Hospice. When I started that job, a paid position, my whole life changed. My spiritual journey changed. When I accepted the job, I looked at it and had like 13 qualifications for this job. And I had 2, maybe 3 that I qualified for. So when I accepted the job, I said, there's 2 things I'll never do. I'll never do public speaking, right? And I'll never facilitate a training program. Well, lo and behold, I did that. I ended up facilitating 3 levels of training. And of course, I do some public speaking, right? But after, I don't know how long it was, they hired somebody to do the training program, and I wasn't happy with the results of the training program, because people were going through it, but they weren't becoming volunteers. So I went to the board, and I said, I want to start facilitating the training program. Huge risk for me. I had no idea what I was doing. Well, here's this guy who was in the automotive business for 26 years, and he wants to facilitate a hospice training program. Guess what they did? They sent me to school. When I left school, I failed grade 11. I finally completed school. I was never going in a classroom for the rest of my life. I was done with school. I hated school. Well, I had to take 2 courses on group dynamics, but even when I did that, and I was facilitating the programs, they made sure they put somebody in there with me that was just keeping an eye on me to make sure I didn't, make too many mistakes. Anyways, my journey with the hospice volunteers, with the people that are dying, people that are grieving, their family members, just took me on this incredible journey. Incredible journey. I had to consistently take risks and get out of my comfort zone. But that's why I'm able to stand up here today and talk. So that journey was beautiful. I don't know how many people are here volunteering in the hospice. I don't know if there's people here that are thinking of maybe volunteering in the hospice. I don't know if there's people here that maybe volunteer in the thrift store, on the board, whatever their area is, and have maybe thought about becoming a volunteer, working with the dying and their families. And as I say to people that say to me, I volunteer in 3 federal prisons. And people say to me, oh, how can you do that? I would never be able to do that. People used to say, when I tell them I'm working with the dying, they would say, oh, I could never do that. How do you do that? Another word I often heard when I was working with the dying was, oh, that's got to be so depressing. And I can tell you, the word depressing never, ever came into the picture. Yes, there were sad times. There's going to be sad times. But the happy times far outweighed the sad times. So if any of you are thinking of maybe getting involved one day, what I would say to you is, the same answer I give to everybody that says, oh, they can never do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Thank you very much. Sorry, I wrote a book in 2002 to help people that are supporting someone who's dying. Most of this information applies today, just like it did in 2002. I brought some copies if somebody wants them. And I also wanted to mention Ted's book has already been mentioned. Peace Begins With Me. I work in a federal prison, And I can't tell you how many people have taken this and grown from this. It is an incredible book. And when I give it to somebody, not just in prison, but into my everyday life, when I give them this book, there's not a chance I'm going to get it back. They want to pass it to their family and everybody else. So if you haven't got Ted's book, Peace Begins With Me, I suggest you get it. And I've got some of these books here. Okay, so I'll just leave them here. I'll just put them out there.
Great job, Pete, as usual. Yeah. See how this hospice stuff becomes a little infectious? It's a good infection, but it's just amazing the momentum and the spirit and the energy that gets carried this way and this way and this way and this way. It's all over. So that was fun. So that was good. So I'd like you to join me in giving a very warm welcome to our next and final guest speaker, Lisa Kent. So Lisa's going to share with us about the journey she and her family experienced at Crossroads Hospice when her dad passed away in 2024. This is just one of the many stories of how Crossroads has been a haven of rest and care during a time that could be so very difficult. So Lisa, can I ask you to come up?
Thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Lisa, and this is my mom, Mary. Many of you probably know her. And I'm here to tell you about our family's experience with Crossroads. We would like to start by saying thank you to everyone who works with Crossroads in all capacities. Your love, compassion, and hard work make the hardest moments in people's lives a little bit easier. To be here on behalf of my mom, my brother Brian, our spouses, and all extended family to tell you how important Crossroads is to us is an incredible honor. Thank you. Our road to Crossroads was a very short one. My dad, Steve, was diagnosed with stage 4 malignant melanoma that had metastasized to his brain in January 2024. The type of melanoma he had was incredibly aggressive, and by the time we tried treatment, it was too late. We worked really hard to keep him home for as long as we could, but once he was taken off his treatment, we knew it was time to move on to the next step. Within 2 days, my mom had gotten a call that there was a bed at Crossroads for him. I'm glad that it was quick, because hoping for a bed to open in a hospice is an incredibly strange feeling. Knowing that a family is losing someone that they love so that your person can have a space is hard to come to terms with. The next day, June 23rd, 2024, the transfer van came to get him. We didn't really have enough time to prepare, and we had no idea what to expect, but I think if we had known, it would have been a little less scary for all of us. I assumed it was going to feel sterile and cold like a hospital, but it was the opposite. My friend's mom had just spent 3 months at Crossroads. She told me all about what it was like, but it was impossible for me to imagine. Stepping off the elevator was one of the most terrifying moments of my life. But as soon as I had the chance to focus and look around, a feeling of ease came over me. I was worried that the grief from all the people was going to hang in the air, but it didn't. Everyone who works at Crossroads approaches newcomers with the love, grace, and kindness that only people who do this work could. Once we settled into his room, it felt strangely like home. It was a place where we could relax, laugh, cry, and be the family that we couldn't be while we were taking care of him. Little things like adding family photos to the walls and bringing in treats helped us feel a little bit more comfortable. Crossroads was obviously built with love and attention in every detail. The ability to have a family dinner at the dining room table and sit in the living room chatting are memories that we will carry with us forever. Our dad loved food and was happy to eat as much of it as he could at any opportunity. The cooks were always happy to make him what he wanted. Being one of the only guests that actually had an appetite was a nice change for them. Our mom having the opportunity to stay with our dad whenever she wanted was incredibly important to her. She spent a lot of her nights while he was there on the pull-out sofa in his room that she often will admit was quite comfortable. Hospice nurses are angels on earth. When your career is built on helping people you know are in the last stage of their life, you have to be a special kind of person. Our dad was at Crossroads for almost a month, and in that time, they became an extension of our family, supporting us through the hardest transition of our lives. They allowed our dad to live with dignity, and they gave us the time we needed to spend as a family without having to be caregivers. They gave us space while knowing that they were there. We will never be able to thank them for what they gave back to us. The doctors were the same. One of them came in one day while I was there alone and sat with me on the sofa and answered all of my questions. She must have been with me for 45 minutes and never made me feel like she had somewhere else to be. The support staff at Crossroads, specifically Linda, who I don't think is here today, were incredible. It was my mom's 70th birthday while we were there, and she helped her get my dad to sign a birthday card. He wasn't able to sign his name at that point, but she made sure he left his mark by stamping his thumbs in the shape of a heart. The love and kindness that she displays is something that I try to take with me through my life. The social worker, Kiku, was also incredible. She supported my mom by answering all of her questions and giving her resources that she would need to make the final arrangements. Her guidance was invaluable to our mom, and we are so grateful that she was there to help. Our dad passed away on July 20th. The nurses were able to tell us that the end was coming, so we could make sure that the people we wanted there were there. Having the opportunity to say goodbye to someone you love, someone you love so much is not something that a lot of people get. Once we were back home and life was settling into our new normal, we got our first bereavement packages with information on the one-on-one and group counseling. Meeting Chloe for the first time was a dream come true for me. My first conversation with her over the phone and her love and passion for what she does came through. Quiet and compassionate were exactly what I needed, while she told me all about the group programs and what it was like. I think her and Angela must have some angel wings of their own. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about sharing my group grief with people I didn't know. Being vulnerable isn't easy, but Chloe and the other facilitators made it quite comfortable. There's something about being in a room with a bunch of people who understand what you're going through that makes the experience quite special. Group has become one of the things I look forward to most every month. My mom and I have both made some great friends through our group sessions that will likely carry with us for the rest of our lives. My mom and I try and stay as active as we can through Crossroads. She volunteers on Friday mornings at the thrift store, and I've been doing as much as I can to help support with some fundraising. I also plan on taking the volunteer program. When I was asked to speak to our experience on behalf of my family, I couldn't say yes fast enough. We will never be able to express how much this group of people means to us, but I will forever try my best.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Mary. Thank all of our speakers today who have shared and whose words have reflected many of the memories and stories and moments that each of us hold in our hearts still. We're just about finished the formal part of our program, so before we wrap it up, I just want to please encourage each of you to share your stories located in the quiet room across from the kitchen. Staff in the Crossroads Bereavement Program are on standby to capture your memories through video recording, so we can add them to our archives of stories on this journey that we share together. And if you have not already had the opportunity to do so, there's no rush to leave. Please take a moment to look through our photos and other memorabilia located in the labyrinth room. That's an appropriate name, isn't it? I just love how it kind of fate ties things together. Right? We have plenty of refreshments still to be enjoyed. Thanks to Christine Catering for providing the delicious food today. Thank you to all of our volunteers who helped ensure a smooth and enjoyable afternoon for everyone today. I appreciate the help and guidance I got in the role that I was asked to facilitate. And to the Crossroads staff, of course, for help in planning this special afternoon that honors the work, the life work that we all achieved together. So, on behalf of Crossroads Hospice Society, thank you all so much for being here, for making this afternoon so special. We hope you've enjoyed this time together. We hope you've formed some new strengths, renewed some linkages to your passion, and why you're part of this group in the first place. I know I have this, I'm sure you can tell. So, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, but before we wrap up, we're going to invite everyone to gather at the front of the stage. I'm not in charge of this, I don't know what it's going to look like. We want to take a group photo, and then we have cake. So we're going to do a group photo with everybody, and then we're going to bring the cake in and do a group photo with the cake. Okay? Am I getting that right? Okay, so who's coming to take over, because I'm not steering this. So, right, thank you very, very much, and have a good afternoon.
As promised, the afternoon wrapped up with the taking of a group photo and the customary celebratory cake. If you have time to donate, why not check out Crossroads Hospice Society? They're always looking for volunteers to help them continue to provide their much-valued service to the Tri-Cities community. This is Jeff Scott reporting for Tri-Cities Community TV's Local Journalism Initiative.